Hello and welcome to Horrific Tales. In this show we celebrate the creations of independent authors and aspiring writers. Please like and subscribe and share these episodes so we can help our talented friends get as much exposure as possible. We would also appreciate it if you could support our artists by following them on their individual platforms and by purchasing their works. Details on how to do this are in the episode description. Today's horrific tale is a submission from writer Monicah Shah. Join us now as we present Jessica's Body. Jessica was thrilled with the elegant corporate apartment she had looked into. She was certain she would relish her 2 weeks in New Orleans on the top floor of this beautiful brick building, a courthouse renovated into condos, right at the edge of the French Quarter. After a long first day of meetings and analysing market strategy, Jessica was glad to take a cab back to her temporary digs, where she would be able to relax with a glass of wine and drift off to sleep. She ordered a bottle of Pinot Gris with the shrimp tacos from the room service menu and pulled out her silk pyjamas to put on while waiting for her tray to arrive. It was quite cold in the bedroom and Jessica shivered as she unpacked the rest of her suitcase, stuffing clothes in drawers, hanging up her suits. She couldn't find a control unit for the air conditioner, so went back into the living room, which was warmer. The tacos were delicious, with the bright flavours of lime, cumin and cilantro. She poured herself some white wine and sat facing the large picture window, through which city lights gleamed. The glass reflected the image of an attractive woman, just north of 40, glossy brown hair that reached her shoulders, olive-toned complexion, and a weariness in her posture indicative of too many long days and nights spent at the office. Soon she was yawning, and took her wine glass with her as she shuffled off to her bed. She half-heartedly watched part of the silly Drew Barrymore romantic comedy on TV. Jessica realised she hadn't brushed her teeth, decided that it didn't matter, turned off the television and fell into a dreamless sleep. At some point during the night her eyes opened. She had no idea what had wakened her, but she felt very cold. Her eyes fell on the empty glass and equally empty bottle on her nightstand. Had she polished off an entire bottle last night? She didn't remember having done that. Closing her eyes, she pulled the covers over her head, shutting out the chill. In the morning, Jessica called the front desk from her room, requesting help with turning off the AC in the bedroom. The attendant paused before stating that central AC was already shut down throughout the hotel for the season. "Oh, I see," said Jessica. "Then why is it so cold in my room?" The clerk had no answers, and Jessica was running late, so she hung up and rushed to finish getting ready. She paused before tossing the wine bottle into the wastebasket. She didn't feel drunk or hungover. How had she single-handedly finished a whole bottle of wine? None for her tonight, she decided before running out the door. At the end of another long day of work, Jessica arrived back at her apartment with a take-out container of gumbo from a local hole-in-the-wall place that one of her colleagues had recommended. She found a blue ceramic bowl in the kitchenette and poured half of it in, stashing the rest in the mini-fridge. She hungrily slurped at the savoury stew, pulling out choice chunks of sausage and chicken and crab. One of the perks of having to travel for work was getting to try the local cuisine, and of course the bonus of not having to pay for it. She licked the last of the broth off her spoon and rinsed the dishware in the sink, leaving it to dry on the granite counter. Feeling pleasantly full, she walked to her bedroom. "Jesus," she muttered, as she felt the drop in temperature upon crossing the threshold. She put on a sweater over her pyjamas and got under the covers with her laptop. She spent an hour reviewing some documents in preparation for the next day, before falling asleep. Again, her eyes opened automatically a few hours later. The digital clock showed 2:17 a.m. Enough moonlight filtered through the room to make out the outlines of the furniture, so Jessica didn't feel it necessary to turn on the lights when she got up to use the bathroom. When she came back, she noticed that the side of the bed she hadn't slept on, the left, was slightly indented, sloping inwards. Jessica flicked on the light and stared hard at the area. The mattress looked fine now. Must have been a trick of the night shadows. Turning off the light, Jessica climbed back into bed. As she settled in, she stretched her arms out. The sheets to her left were ice cold, as she reflectively brought her arm back to her side. First thing in the morning, Jessica again rang up the front desk. "Someone needs to fix the temperature in the bedroom," she insisted. As she was about to leave the apartment, she glanced back at the kitchenette and saw a blue bowl and spoon in the sink, with leftover gumbo sticking to the sides. Stopping dead mid-step, Jessica's mind whirled. She had washed that bowl and spoon. She knew she had. She opened the refrigerator and lifted out the styrofoam tub she had left there that night. It was completely empty. Had she somehow eaten the rest of the stew and not remembered? She hadn't been drinking at all. She recalled reading about the rare occurrence of sleep eating, but something like that usually happened after taking sleeping pills, or during times of extreme stress. Was she so stressed out by work that she sleep ate the rest of the gumbo? Feeling uneasy, Jessica threw the empty container in the trash before shutting the door behind her. Even later than usual that night, Jessica entered the apartment after a luxurious dinner at Antoine's, sponsored by Kenobi Bell, the company who had hired her consulting firm. Her team had been wined and dined with oyster Rockefeller, soft-shell crab and baked Alaska. Stuffed and sleepy, she headed straight to bed, only to wake up a couple of hours later with a heaviness on her chest. Her whole body felt pinned down, as if someone was lying on top of her. She couldn't move. She tried to call out, but her breath caught in her throat. Starting to panic, she pushed hard against the bed with her hands and managed to raise her torso enough to reach the lamp on the nightstand. As soon as the room flooded with light, the feeling of heaviness lifted. She looked around, her heart beating fast, her breathing erratic. She could see her breath as she exhaled. Leaving the lights on, she eventually fell back into a fitful sleep. That morning, Jessica woke up, still tired from the strange events of the night. When she went into the kitchen, every cabinet door was standing open. Her mind spinning, Jessica tried to think of a logical explanation. Perhaps the maid had left them open after cleaning the day before, and since Jessica had gone straight to bed when she came home, she must not have noticed. That was plausible. Or maybe there had been some sort of earthquake or magnetic storm that caused the doors to open, and it was also responsible for the suffocating weight she had felt in the middle of the night. The weight that had felt like another person lying over her. All day long, Jessica couldn't shake the sense of disquiet that had overtaken her. She couldn't concentrate on writing her report, couldn't come up with any tangible solutions for her client, or any for herself. Rajiv, the possibly cute guy from the West Coast branch of her company, who had taken to sitting next to her at meetings, was lightly flirting with her today. He bought her a mug of green tea, grazing her fingertips as he handed it over. When the team lead made yet another unfunny joke, he caught her eye and smirked, one eyebrow arched. Jessica let herself be wooed, smiling, laughing out loud, letting her eyes linger a shade too long on his face, touching his sleeve, until Rajiv asked her to have dinner together that night. She drank too much, the first alcohol she had touched since the night she had seemingly finished the entire bottle. She giggled often, bit her lower lip and played with her hair, doing her best easy to take advantage of. Whispering in his ear, "Come home with me," as they haltingly made their way out of the cosy bistro, Jessica broke her cardinal rule about romantic entanglements with co-workers. In the courthouse apartment, Jessica led Rajiv to the bedroom, not noticing if it was cold or not in her warm, hazy stupor. In the way of one-night stands everywhere, they tumbled to the bed, removing articles of clothing in between kisses, not knowing or caring what this might mean for their future. This time, when Jessica woke up around 2:30 a.m, she felt the reassuring presence of Rajiv's arm around her and fell right back to sleep. The second time her eyes opened, it was already 6:45 and her head was pounding, the telltale sign of a hangover. Rajiv's arm was still curled around her torso, and she could feel his cool breath on her neck as she started to disentangle herself. Why was his breath so cold, she wondered, as she pulled away from him and dangled her legs off the bed. As she got up, Jessica twisted to face him and gasped aloud. There was no one there. Throwing on a cream top and jacket over dark grey pants, Jessica virtually ran outside. She found herself shaking as she sat rigidly in the taxi on her way to the office. She was freezing cold and apparently imagining things. She had never thought of herself as having a drinking problem, but maybe she did. What the hell was happening to her? Rajiv greeted her in the conference room with a sly grin, noting that he had left around midnight because Jessica had fallen asleep so early. Midnight? in whose arms had been around her in the dark. All day long she continued to feel chilled, probably a symptom of her hangover. Jessica vowed to not drink at all anymore. That was the only way to preserve her sanity. Still, when Rajiv invited her to a local party that evening, she immediately said yes. She wanted to be around other people and nowhere near her apartment. The party was held in the Weather Creole townhouse. Half the crowd squeezed under the cast iron balcony. The rest crowded around the kitchen table, laden with oily appetizers and bottles of liquor. On autopilot, Jessica allowed Rajiv to pour her a glass of something dry and white, before ambling over to gaze at the enigmatic artwork gracing the walls. The oil painting drawing her attention was a mosaic of colour and jagged lines. Abstract, but with something tangible and recognisable peeking through. "Can you make out that there are zoo animals in cages?" a husky voice cut through Jessica's thoughts. Jessica turned around to see a coffee-skinned woman, dressed like a proverbial gypsy, right down to her bohemian skirt and colourful layers of beaded necklaces. The woman narrowed her eyes before Jessica could respond, and spoke in a hushed whisper. "Who did you bring with you?" Jessica looked around for Rajiv and pointed him out in the kitchen, wondering at the woman's curiosity in her evening's companion. "No," the woman said curtly. Her dark eyes flickered over to Jessica's left shoulder. "You have a spirit attached to you." She backed away from Jessica without taking her eyes off her. After a moment of stunned silence, Jessica called, "Wait, please, don't leave." The gypsy woman shook her head, clutching the pendant she was wearing with her hand. Jessica could make out the eye of Horus painted on it, said the word of evil spirits. Jessica walked quickly towards her. "Please," she gasped. "Please, can you help me?" The woman stayed just out of her reach, but she stopped moving away. "Come with me," she spoke in a low whisper still, leading Jessica outside, down the stairs into the garden, with the fragrance and grandinas surrounding them. She took a deep breath and looked at Jessica with apprehension. She repeated her earlier assertion. "A spirit has attached itself to you." Jessica stammered. "As little as a day ago, I would not have believed you, but there have been many things, too many things, that have happened that I can't explain. How did, what can, She had so many questions but settled for, "How do I get rid of it?" Even as she asked the question, Jessica felt her body grow colder. Her throat tightened as if squeezed by external force. She instinctively understood the spirit was not eager to be gotten rid of. The gypsy woman, who revealed herself to be Anita, took Jessica's hand and held it palm open upwards towards the sky. She closed her eyes and murmured something that didn't sound English or even French. Jessica was so cold, despite the humid warmth of the night air, that her teeth were chattering, and she pulled her jacket tighter around her body. Anita nodded her head with a fleeting smile, then opened her eyes and exhaled audibly. "You need to go," she said. "Get out of New Orleans immediately." Jessica just stared at her, uncomprehending. "Go!" exclaimed Anita. "Do you want this spirit to infiltrate your body permanently?" The next day, Jessica found herself on a plane back to New Jersey. She was exhausted from the ordeal of the past few days, but relieved it was over. She offered up a silent prayer of gratitude for Anita's guidance and her help in packing and getting her a flight out first thing in the morning. Her boss was dismayed, but Jessica had been convincing in her explanation of the rapid onset mystery illness, requiring her to cut short her assignment. Back at her own townhouse in a cosy lakeside community, Jessica set her bags down and sunk into one of the luxe suede sofas, relishing the feeling of being home safe and amongst her own belongings. She popped a frozen dinner of chicken marsala in the microwave, checked the voicemails on her landline, and started going through her pile of mail, before a large yawn overtook her and she started drifting off to sleep. She woke up a couple of hours later, curled up on the sofa, shivering from the chilly air in the room. Her body felt laden, and at first she thought she was just so tired she couldn't move. But within moments she recognized the sense of something pressing down on her, squeezing her lungs, preventing her voice from shouting out. She felt frozen in place, both from cold and fear. The spirit had come with her. Her heart hammering in her chest, she was abruptly able to jolt upright, only when the phone rang, disturbing the eerie tableau. Grasping her mobile like a lifeline, Jessica rasped, "Hello?" into the mouthpiece, while anxiously peering all around the room, terrified of whatever presence was now in her own home. "Hello, it's Anita," said a hollow voice sounding far away. "Anita," breathed Jessica with relief. "The spirit, it's here, at my home. I felt it creeping into my body. It's weird. The cold," she sobbed. Anita said nothing. "Anita? Anita?" Jessica's voice was laced with panic. "Yes, I'm here," Anita answered quietly. She didn't sound alarmed. "Looks like you brought the spirit with you," she confirmed. "I called to tell you something. The ghost is of a man named Santos. He was a slave in the 1800s and found guilty of brutal crimes he never committed. Santos was unjustly hung in the courthouse you were staying in. The only way for him to be free was to find a living human to anchor onto, someone who fed him and let him into their bed." "But," Jessica protested, "I didn't feed it. I didn't let it come to my bed." "But you did," said Anita. "You were the first guest to stay there for several nights after the building was converted into apartments. You brought in food and drink. You slept in the same room where Santos resided. That was an invitation. He found a haven with you." "But I didn't mean to do that," wailed Jessica, as the cold seeped into her bones, claiming her femurs, her spine, each joint one after another. "Why didn't you warn me? You told me that if I left, it wouldn't follow me." Frost prickled her skin. "That's not actually what I said," responded Anita. She was silent for a moment before adding, "Santos was my great-great-grandfather, and he has long wanted to be free of the place that has chained him for over a century. I couldn't deny him that. By leaving New Orleans, you enabled him to leave as well. Your body will be his home." Jessica was speechless as she tried to formulate a reply. "You betrayed me," she said, all the while noting how her hands and feet no longer had any feeling, how her heartbeat had slowed, quieted, how her head felt fuzzy, as if her thoughts were being pulled through the cask of molten butter. "No," said Anita, her voice sounding even further away than before. "I saved my great-great-grandfather. I helped him gain freedom from being bound to the place of his death. A safe dwelling, another chance at life." Jessica didn't answer. Couldn't answer. "I'm sorry it had to be this way," Anita added. But Jessica was past being able to hear or care. Santos was home. Well, we hope that you enjoyed our latest horrific tale. If you want to keep up to date with future episodes, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. Please also take a moment to support our contributing artists who very kindly lend their talents to this show. Check out the links in the description how you can do this. Until next time, my friends, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.